Who are we not broadcasting to? There we go. Connecting to that old YouTube. How dare they ban me from Periscope? I love this epigraph. I got the just frozen coffee slaking up the sides of my glass. Mm, mm, mm. All right, looks like we're live. Let's take it back to the concrete streets. Original beats with real live MC. Goddamn. Let's take a gander right here. Let's hit that little intro. It took me about 2 minutes to get out of bed. Weird flex, but okay. Good morning, everybody. Good Lord, it is cold out there this morning. Yeah, I walked around in the dead of the night, and it's like, what is it, like 5 in the morning over here in Bedford Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. And yeah, I just rolled around, and it's like cold enough that you don't even want to mug anybody because, like any scuffle is going to hurt like hell. And it's a joke, Raborn. Don't fall for it. Spathy was trolling. But yeah, it's not a pleasant morning to be out there, but it's also kind of cute. Like what am I trying to say here? Um, I like that there's nobody out, and that it was like freezing rain overnight, so there's this crust of ice covering everything, and every boot step crunches. You feel like you're on the surface of, I don't know, encephalus or something like that. Ooh, or Callisto, or there's just about everything in space is fucking frozen when it comes right down to it. It's cold out there. Um, so never forget, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. So saith Voltaire. That's how long it took me to catch my breath. Oh shit! Do you have that COVID? Fuck. Yeah, man, that shit just tears your lungs right the fuck up. All right. Well, this is our newest novel that we're working on right here. God, I'm just waiting to kickstart my heart over here. Yeah, this is what did we figure out? It was like my ninth or 10th book. I forgot already. Let's just say it's number 9. And we're on the day 8 of continuous editing. We will edit every day in February as long as I'm not sick or dead or in jail. No, I'm fat. We should get on the Bitcoin billionaire with me. I'm down to like 223. I was at 222 yesterday. It's fucking ridiculous right there. Like 18 pounds in just a few short months. Woke up exhausted versus woke up exhausted. I've reached that point where I suffocate at night. So I got to lose weight so I don't die. Yeah, I hear that. And part of the reasons why I'm losing weight myself is just like the fatter you are, the worse your sleep apnea will get. Because you got all that fat clogging up your fucking throat. So I'm doing a pretty decent job of sticking with it here. The key for me is just like having only like a 6-hour window where I eat and eliminating just about like keeping it under 30 grams of carbohydrates a day. And the only thing I've found I have to do really is just buffer some of that out with taking a multivitamin. And I'm taking these baking soda pills at the moment right here. I don't know if they're doing anything for me, but they ain't hurting as far as I can tell right there. Because once you get into ketoacidosis, your blood, you're like a basilisk or whatever, where it just turns into acid. And anyhow, nobody cares about anybody else's diet. But that shit does work. I did it before and dropped from like 240 down to 195. And this time I'm only going to 200, 195. I look kind of twinky. But I just do that every 3 or 4 years until I'm dead. And I don't mind like ping pong in between those two. Is the microphone low? Check 1 2, check 1 2, check 1 2, check. Now I'm just probably talking quiet, to tell you the truth. Blah, 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 blah. That does seem a little low to me, but also I don't want to talk loud. But that's the only sound on the stream. So if it's too quiet to where you can't hear a fucking thing, let me know. It does seem a little low. Hold on, let me make sure I didn't nudge something over here. Mm-hmm. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. That's a little bit better. Yeah, we were just like a little low on our main out, so this will help a little bit. Muscle Milk Daddy says, love the stream. Doing great. Follow me and let's collab. Why don't you collaborate with my balls, right? and suck my ever-loving dick, you spamming motherfucker. Muscle milk today. You remember back in the day where I was trying to shill that halal version of muscle milk called Muslim milk? All right, don't have to adjust volume. I'm glad we could do that for you there. Okay, so let's get into this a little bit. I think it's been a little bit, so it'd be happy or helpful to recap what's been going on in this story. So this is XEROS. It's a story of a potentially brainwashed prisoner. I can't fucking talk straight today. It's the story of a potentially brainwashed prisoner who is held on a space station far on the fringes of the Hezro Empire. Let me get this. So let's get into what each of the chapters were. So in chapter 0, the Dictabulik, we found our protagonist, Traitor, facing off against an interceptor squadron somewhere where there's like a giant silver ring, and wondering how the fuck did I get into this predicament? Record scratch. God, I'm so glad they got rid of that fucking gimmick. It was the most ancient shit, and nobody has a record player anymore, except for hipsters, and they're barely even human. God, there's like a tremendous static energy flying around my apartment. Literally, like the back of my shirt was like clinging to my chair, and my hair is like Medusae serpents going every which way. Then we get to chapter 1, where we learn that Traitor. It's just a struggle session with Traitor. If you were never in a struggle session, this is a time back in the Cultural Revolution where everybody in a village would get together and criticize somebody for not contributing hard enough to the revolution. And here they just have like a kind of creepy way that they do it, where each of the inmates has some ritual that they have to go through to humiliate them. So my uncle owns a record pressing business. They've come back in a big way. It's no longer a hipster thing. It's a fad. Records are shit. I've continued to say this. They're garbage, man. They don't sound good. And you know what people like? When people like having like a tangible object to put in their hands and to like put up on their walls. But everybody I know that owns a record player just listens to fucking Bluetooth phone music all the time. They don't actually play the records. And at some point, people will realize that what they really want is a 12 by 12 picture of an album cover that's just fucking framed. Yeah, why don't bands just sell that? Because that's what people really want. They want like the image that they can put up that reminds them of the music that they love, something that they can handle. But I guess another part of it was like it was really, you do kind of miss like taking the fucking disc out and jamming it into the CD player and like putting your penis through the hole like a spindle and all this other stuff. So people say it's not about sounding good. It's about sounding warm. I fucking hate audiophiles so much. All right, so then we went to chapter number 2, where we met Murderess, who is the only female character in the entire book, and she's not a good one. Then we met Pirate, who is like a little bit more fun there. He's kind of the irrepressible, ancient old mariner type character. And then in chapter 4, we met Corrupt, who is more of like the greasy, sinister type character. Pony plushies. Ugh. I don't know. Then in chapter 5, Silhouettes. So this is where XEROS kind of takes Traitor aside and pulls him apart from the pack and singles him out for like a special long indoctrination. And here we start to see that XEROS understands that something is up with Traitor. And they're a physical manifestation of things that I like. Well, I can't argue with that. I mean, I'm just surrounded by countless stuff that I barely use that I just like it, you know, stuff that I bought myself to cheer myself up when I should have just been working harder. Yeah, so this was a fun chapter. I enjoyed silhouettes quite a bit there. Um, I have to stop writing overhead projector screens or overhead projector scenes. It's just ridiculous. Huh. Yeah, honestly, like I did a bunch of painting yesterday and I'm noticing like a lot of difficulty getting words out and so forth. I have to stop using that paint, man. It's just it's slowing me down. Although it might be a bunch of other things too. But oh, I got a 4 a.m. meeting. Oh, that's a shame. I could have used Spathe. All right, so then we did the Legend of Arcturus, where XEROS tells the legend of this space battle, and you get a deeper insight into what the Hezo Star Empire is all about. You get a really keen insight into how fashy XEROS really is, and how he despises weakness and thinks that they would be winning in the war if they had just been like a little bit more bloodthirsty. Which who's to say? Maybe he's right. And then we did chapter 7, I think, which is this is a long ass chapter right here. It was like a 4,500 word chapter. Just for like comparison, that's like a tenth of the book that we spent on this one chapter but the other part of it is it's like an exciting space battle chapter. And I think a lot of people who get into military sci-fi are looking for like big ass space battles and fucking tactics and all this whatnot. And it's a way that we can give it to them while still maintaining our sort of gloomy and oppressive atmosphere of being a prisoner on a space station. So one thing that we haven't been doing in this edit that I would like to get a little bit closer to, any mechs, they're later in the story. There are some like very direct integrations with technology, but I'm not gonna, I don't want to spoiler it for people who are getting up into it there. But also another part of this is that this is meant to be realistic science fiction, and mechas are just stupid. They're really cool, right? I'm not immune to I love that shit when I was a kid, but the idea that you would make like a humanoid robot, it's just so inefficient in so many ways. And it like when you see people writing about like these giant huge robotic creatures, it's like they haven't really deeply thought about like why human beings have hands, why we've developed these particular things. They're meant for interacting with the world at like this very granular scale, and like a 20-foot tall robot doesn't really interact with the world at that scale. Once you start getting that big, you have to have a reason for doing it. So potentially, I don't know, potentially you could have like giant mining robots that were useful like that, but they would be in zero gravity for the most part if you're like tearing apart asteroids or something like that. So I think they would look more like big giant fucking spiders. Downloaded all the BattleTech novels, gonna work through them. Yeah, they did a pretty good job with even though I never played BattleTech or whatever, they managed to make it like enough of a big deal that like I knew about like some of the different classes of mechs, and I played some of the video games, and yeah, it was kind of inescapable. Yeah, we just love engines of war. But yeah, it's always kind of bugged me seeing shit like Pacific Rim and so forth, where they just ignore so many obvious solutions to the problem that don't involve like a giant walking robot, just because we want to see giant walking robots. It's part of like a desire that people have to anthropomorphize everything. Literally everything that we look at, we want to twist it to be more like ourselves, which yeah, really makes you ponder. The space battles before were just giant ships flying around and nuking and bioweaponing planets to death. They came up with mech slap fights to rein in the destruction. See, that's what I like is the way that Warhammer does it, where they keep in. They're just like, yeah, from time to time, we will just annihilate worlds with like cyclone torpedoes and shit like that, just because we feel like purging them. And the only reason that they send in ground troops is they actually want to like control objectives and keep from nuking planets and losing valuable production stuff and so forth. Like I don't know, like I like a lot of what they do in Warhammer, although a lot of what they do is stupid as shit. But I've gone into this before. Any collaborative universe slowly turns fucking ridiculous, right? Because you don't have that single point of like, no, that's stupid. You know, we're not going to give fucking muskets to skeletons. What are you talking about? Um, and like one thing I'll say for Warhammer is like at least their core of what they set out to do was cool enough. Like the whole like in the grim darkness of the future, there is only war. They set like this is our tone very very strongly, so that it's hard to go into that tone and be like, well, what if we had a race of unicorn people and shit like that, and like get the fuck out of our meeting, etc. And they're also their universe is kind of like reined in by the way that it's meant to sell a game, right? So everything that they do within that universe has to lend itself to making little figurines and terrain and shit like that. So it's interesting. I used to love that shit when I was a kid. All right, so the last chapter that we did, the Garbage Lands, ended with a bet between pirate and traitor as to who would be the next prisoner to be executed. And then we already did the interrogation scene right here. And so this is where traitor is interrogated for some like 48 hours straight and not given water and nearly dies and starts to hallucinate. It was a gangster chapter. And we are officially, hold on. Mm. All right, what do we got here? So Raborn is saying the only reason they didn't make Space Marines, they made all the Space Marines men, is it cost more to make male and female models, and people weren't buying them. Yeah, not a lot of little girls want to go and paint fucking Space Marines and orcs and shit like that, and sit in a dank basement with their homies and spend 6 hours on a bright and sunny Saturday, like moving around little plastic army men. I don't know why. You know, this shit was super fun, but some did enjoy it. Just none that were hot. I tell you, this is not blood, by the way. It's just paint. If you can see what's going on there, it's stuck to my hands. Where are we going? Yeah, I can almost feel my brain rewiring as I'm like waking up, and the dynamos are spinning up and so forth. So we're going to get into chapter number 8, Pirate's Gallery, right here. So after the brutality of the Garbage Land scene and the interrogation, we try to open up a little bit and have some interactions between the prisoners that aren't just them fucking each other over. And this is pretty much the only chapter where anybody is warm to each other in the entire story. And one of the things that I wanted to do with this novel that I didn't do a good job of, for the most part, is I wanted to have a lot of places where people were focusing on like, because their lives are so ugly, they fixate on like the simple beauty of certain situations. Like here, there's definitely ample time for them to stare out at the stars or to just admire like one not so ugly thing in their whole thing. In A Day of the Life of Ivan Denisovich, there was a stirring sense that even though they had been imprisoned in spirit, Ivan Denisovich's his satisfaction with a job well done, his sort of indomitable spirit, his like respect for his own hardiness and so forth. These were the themes that made you respect like the basic decency of Ivan Denisovich. And like I remember at the end of reading that book, just savoring like my cafeteria lunch or whatever, because I had spent so much time reading about how hungry he was and how much he valued like a heel of bread and some thin gruel or whatever they got a hold of there. So um, definitely, like he does a neat trick where he's writing about these terrible, terrible conditions, and by focusing on the tiny moments of beauty in the everyday peasant life of this guy, like in a kulak in Siberia, um, he makes it something that's relatable. Um, the closest I can come here is where Trader has like secreted away some ketchup packets, and he's like sucking every atom of nourishment out of them when they're like consigned to no rations for like a couple of days. So I wanted to find more spots to do it, and so far I like that slipped my mind while we were doing the other editing. I may do like a little rewriting at the conclusion of this whole thing. But anyhow, we've been, it's like 26 minutes. We haven't edited word one here. It's just been me blogging and reminding myself of what the whole thing was. So let's do chapter 8. This is XEROS by Zach Zwizy, read by the author. Chapter 8, Pirate's Gallery. Psst. I was already awake, making up my mind what to do about this new development. Through half-lidded eyes, I watched Pirate as he crept up to my bunk, whispering. I listened to the whisper in the dim red light, making up my mind what to do about this new development. Through half-lidded eyes, I watched Pirate creep up to my bunk to see if I was awake. I was always awake. I lied to the drills when I told them I was dead to the world at night. I barely slept at all, and what I got was very... I barely slept at all, and what little rest I got was very light, a twitch of my nose between dreaming and waking. I don't feel a twitch of my nose. Yeah. I like the image, a twitch between dreaming and waking. Yeah, I think the nose part just breaks up that construct a little bit. I barely slept at all. What little rest I got. Um, the little sleep. That's not quite right. I don't like what little. When I did, it was very light. A twitch between dreaming and waking. I like that. Pirate and I were the night owls of the squadron. The others slept like stones. Usually. Um, I have to put usually in there because there are definitely parts of this where people are awake. The others usually slept like stones. It had been a week since I'd been discharged from the infirmary. We were all back in our routine. I had expected at least one of us to be executed, but no one was. Instead, Rehnquist lost his buddy. Nordahl took the fall. That was all. They still hadn't told the others what it was all about. The others still had no idea why we'd been questioned. I learned I was... we need that. I learned that I was the only one the drills interrogated for more than a few hours. The others had rolled on each other almost immediately. I thought I was brave for holding out, but really, I just like to be hurt. For months, I'd been watching Pirate fidgeting in the dim red light of Lights Out. Let's make that a glow. For months, I'd been watching Pirate fidgeting in the dim red glow of Lights Out, wondering just what the hell he was doing. His back was always to me, but I could see him. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wondering just what the hell he was doing. Were those tiny movements of his shoulder blades some kind of tantric masturbation? Was he twiddling his thumbs? Sobbing to himself? Whatever it was went on for hours, too intent to be mistaken for sleep. The motions were too intent to be mistaken for sleep. Tonight was different. He had been lying awake, tossing and turning. Waiting for me, I suppose. Let's just take that out. Waiting for me. You want to see something? Pirate offered, his voice a hair-thin whisper. It would have been wiser to refuse. While I'd never really subscribed to the official party line that homosexuals were an abomination, I was pretty sure I wasn't one. But I had been in prison for a long, long time. Every night I stared into the red-tinged darkness, hoping morning would never come. Whatever Pirate intended would be a break in my listless melancholy. Really not liking all the snags in my reading and everything tonight. I decided I would see what he had to show me. Luckily, it wasn't his penis. Pirate led me into the latrine. In his hand, he held the short-handled mop we used to clean behind the radiators. My muscles were tensed, ready to go to... My muscles were tense, ready to go down fighting. But instead he sprang onto the toilet lid with a surprising grace. My heart was in my throat as he leapt to work. Oh, I don't like my heart was in my throat. Let's try it. Had he found my stash? Instead, Pirate angled in the left-hand side of the vent with the short-handled mop. I had always used the right-hand side. From his movements, I could tell he'd done this many times before. He retrieved something from the duct and slipped. Oh. Shut the door and turn on the light, Pirate said, his voice low. No one ever turned on the lights at night. I wondered if it would rouse the others. But it was Pirate's show. I flicked on the lights, worried the drills might burst in at any time. When my eyes adjusted, I looked at Pirate. His green eyes glittered in anticipation. Were bright with anticipation. I followed the line of his outstretched arm. Yeah, we're really overwriting this. Along the edge of the sink, there was a row of 3 bright blue plastic dominoes. Each was arranged so it sat in its own pool of light from the overheads. They weren't dominoes. They were sculptures. Each was about the size of a playing card, around 20 millimeters thick. Pirate had carved friezes into them, deep and impossibly intricate. My breath caught. How had he done this? It's thermoplastic. You could handle them, but only the outer edge. Try not to breathe on them, Pirate advised. Pirate had carved each tiny sculpture with a thick outer border so they didn't deform from handling. In total silence, I lifted each and marveled at them, holding each up to my... Oh, hold on. Let me make sure that I did right and left-handed. I added the hyphen there. In the dim red glow of lights out, he'd worked as delicately as a jeweler. The man had to be part cat. The first sculpture was abstract. The carving began as a stylized flowing curve. Then it broke into 3 streams. One had scales like a fish. The next had sharp musculature like a climber's torso. The last was a river of curly, flowing hair that twisted into a braid. It feels like there should be a comma of, it's like adjective, adverb, noun. It does feel like there should be a comma there, but I'm not going to add it. The 3 streams met at the upper edge of the sculpture, and sharp-edged line morphed into sharp-edged lines, like the facets of a crystal. Yeah, I do think it's like comma. Yeah, all right. Adding. And get a point for that, Raborn. Look at on the board, motherfucker. Hell yeah. Yeah, it felt like it needed to be there. Oh, wow. Yeah, Logic and Spaethiwa are really close to each other right now. They're only, if I'm counting right, uh, only 8 points apart. That's crazy. Usually they're never that close. But Spaethiwa's got to work, and Logic's got to drink. So that's how it is. I've got my grammar. Okay. Yeah. We might both be wrong there, but it feels right. In the spaces between the three streams, Pirate had carved entirely through the plastic, separating them with emptiness. This was the practice piece where he was getting a feel for the material. A mere doodle that must have taken months. Poking out the edge of the frame. Poking out the edge of the domino frame were his tool. Oh, I don't think domino adds anything. Poking out from the edge of the sculpture. Yeah, let's just do edge. Poking out from the edge of the sculpture were his tools, the two missing sewing needles we'd caught hell for. What felt like it. So we foreshadow that all the way back in chapter 1, or maybe chapter 2, but whatever chapter where he starts stashing food because they lose all their eating rights. Hold up. Oh, I need like some big de-staticking thing in my apartment, like one of those. I wonder if there's a reverse. You know those spheres that you set your hand on and your hair sticks straight up. I wonder if there's a reverse that just sucks the energy right out of you. Uh, no, that's not a semicolon right there. There we go. That's better. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right there. But let's see. A mere doodle that must have taken months. Poking out from the edge of the sculpture were his tools, the two missing sewing needles. Cool. It felt like a lifetime ago we'd caught hell for them. I wasn't annoyed about it anymore. The second sculpture was an antique three-masted sailing ship, tossed on stormy blue plastic seas. It was a perfect reproduction, from jib to driver. The sails appeared to billow. I could almost hear the howl of the tempest overhead. It filled me with longing for a world I never known and seas that were long gone. The third sculpture really got to me. The third sculpture was the one that got to me. I held it up to the light for as long as I dared, drinking in every curve. When I set it down, there were tears rolling down my cheeks. In tiny slivers of stolen time, Pirate had managed to carve a shred of hatch cowling, filch from a disused airlock into a miniature. There we go. In tiny slivers of stolen time, Pirate had managed to carve a shred of hatch cowling, Pirate had managed to carve a shred of hatch cowling he'd filched from a disused airlock into a miniature Venus of Urbino. So, and here I have to describe this because this is like a 10 or 15%er where like 10 or 15% of people are going to be like, oh, of course, right? Like it immediately springs into their mind. But, the audience is younger and there are less people who are going to be into classic art. It's not like Mona Lisa where you don't have to describe the Mona Lisa, right? All you have to say is some bullshit about her inscrutable smile, and you don't have to describe like David. But Venus of Urbino is like a tier or two down, where people aren't going to get it right off the bat. Well, some people aren't going to get it right. Like there's always people who are on top of every curveball you throw them. The original painting is a woman reclining, nude on a couch, with her hand between her legs. Her expression is inscrutable and indelible. I don't know how to pronounce Folies Berger. Let's see if I can pronounce it in Google. Computer, pronounce this. Yeah.
Folie Bergère.
Folie Berger. Oh, I like that. Like a bar at Folie Bergère. Or a girl with a pearl earring. I stared at the swell of her stomach, the slight rises of her breasts, the tiny signet ring on the pinky of the hand poised above her loins. See, I hate that loins is the word that we have to use here. I remember it breaks up my whole thing to say like vagina, crotch, like pubic mound, like pussy, like none of that shit fits, right? We don't want to use something like grossly anatomical, and we don't want to use like nether regions or some horseshit like that. I also I'm not immune to the fact that I was like making fun of talking about an inscrutable expression, and then we just use that exact fucking uh, super easy word right there. But also, the trader character is like 20 years old, and 20 years old are like prone to like toss out these big ham hock words like they're the first ones to ever come up with it. So it tracks. But let's go through this one more time. Her expression is inscrutable and indelible, like a bar at Folie Bergère. Hold on, get it right.
Folie Bergère.
Folie Bergère. Folie Bergère. Folie Bergère. Like a bar at Folie Bergère. Or girl with a pearl earring. And like immediately, like those paintings spring to like you can't forget what a girl with a pearl earring looks like. A bar at Folie Bergère. Let's pull these up. Yeah. So these are all whammon. Here, let's look at the. Yeah, there's just something like sad and distant about this guy right here. And just like the entire painting is just all about these eyes and the expression, and everything else is just sort of like irrelevant stars in a galaxy there. And yeah, girl with pearl earring. I can't spell earring. Girl with a pearl earring. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Vermeer. Yeah. 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 I challenge anybody to look at that and not think of a girl that they used to date or had a crush on or something like that. Just wow. Some big ass pearls too. So let's go back. Let me make sure I have this right. So it's girl with a pearl earring. Uh, it's them Dutch masters right there. And Manet or Manet is old Edouard Manet, 1882. Okay, and then we got the thing right. The mirror is off too. They don't work that way. Yeah, well, he wanted to show off dead ass is what he was trying to get at there. I don't know. Maybe it's like a curved funhouse mirror or whatever. You don't know what he's doing. No, neither of these is Picasso. I think he was a little bit later. Yeah. When was he born? Picasso. So he was born in 1881. So he would have been like 8 years old when that was painted. He was a prodigy, but maybe not quite that much of a prodigy right there. So yeah, he's a little bit later in his life. Oh, 1882. So it'd be like a year after he was like 1 year old painting that guy. Even if it was a curved funhouse mirror, it wouldn't work that way. There's definitely a type of mirror. There is a curvature where you could make that reflection work exactly that way. It would be like the weirdest fucking mirror of all time. But there's definitely a solution where that perspective can be made to work. And if you really want to get into it, you can have like a lens facing the reader too, where it fucks everything up. But this is a pointless argument. And what I really should be here. Hold on. Let's just make sure that there's not a better word for crotch. I could call it the Great Divide. I like that. Poised above the Great Divide. I like that right there. You know, logic. That's why I highlighted you in chat. And yeah, you missed many comments. You're within stabbing distance of Spaethiwa right here. Look, you're only 8 points away from this motherfucker. And we're at the part that you really like, which is you missed all the homoerotic shit. And yeah, groin. I wouldn't use. Yeah, okay. I like the Great Divide right here. So it's a little bit euphemistic right there, but it's also aggrandizing at the same time, which I like. So I'm gonna. I stared at the swell of her stomach, the slight rises of her breasts, the tiny signet ring on the pinky of the hand poised above the Great Divide. All right, and so this is the painting that we're talking about right here. Yeah, so there's the tiny signet ring right here, and here's the kind of inscrutable hand and the expression, and then the woman puking into this trunk on the other side right there. I didn't get a highlight. Maybe I was disconnected or something. I like hold on. I can go to. Oh, could we have been fucking? Maybe I was disconnected because I did Logic We editing, and then 7 minutes later, I get disconnected from FNet. So it might be an issue. What's the fucking topic of Pound LRH? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this is actually my fucking fault right there, which is annoying. But let's see. So I come into the chat and all right. So they set the topic. Yeah. So you are not at fault here, Logic. It was. God, do I have to fucking? Okay. So at 4:07, I say that we're editing it a little bit, but all right. So yeah, that's totally my fault. They're not your fault. But it's a bummer that you didn't get the highlight because you very much deserved to get highlighted. I missed so many commas. Oh, we'll start again from the beginning. We're not going to start again from the beginning. Actually, how deep are we? No, we're like 3 or 4 pages in. Oh, we're deep into this chapter. All right, later, Reborn. Have a good walk. Yeah, you missed a joke that you would have really liked earlier there. Oh, it's fucking. We got to do something about FNet, man. It's too unreliable. I was awestruck. Into a scrap of blue plastic no longer than my thumb, Pirate had carved everything I'd wanted but couldn't express. She was everything that was missing in my life. Another man might have made a joke, but Pirate only nodded at me. He understood. It meant so much more, knowing that he dared to make these. I don't even want to think about what the drills would have done to him, Pirate, if they caught him tearing bits off of an airlock seal. It meant so much more, knowing what he dared to make these. I don't even want to think about what the drills would have done to Pirate, comma, if they caught him tearing bits off of an airlock seal. No, there's no comma there. The danger hadn't passed. They could barge in at any time. It would be instant death for both of us. Too soon, Pirate gathered up his miniature masterpieces. I couldn't find my words. I could only watch him climbing back on top of the toilet to push his treasures out of reach with the little mop. I cut the light and cracked open the latrine door as he climbed off the bowl. Pirate's talent ate at me. In a different time, Pirate would have started a movement. Oh, yeah. It's too obvious there. In a different time, Pirate would have started a movement. He was that big of a personality. In a different time, Pirate would have started a movement. He was that big of a personality. Oh, I don't like that big. His personality was even bigger than his talent. A metamaterial Matisse, or perhaps a polymorphic paint Picasso. Instead, we were inmates, condemned to death. There's no waste like a war. I wanted to gush at him, to tell him what the sculpture meant to me. I wanted to gush at him. I wanted to gush and tell him what his sculpture meant to me, but there were no words for how I felt. Yeah, that's better. But I couldn't find the words. How? I managed at last, as we stood in the dim light together. If the drills burst in now, we'd claim we were ships passing in the night on the way to the latrine. We'd still be punished, but probably not executed. I rolled the needle between my fingers to get the point hot enough to carve. Very fine work. I told you, I would have been great, Pirate said, with a rueful grin. No boasting now. With the others asleep in their bunks, There was a vast sadness in his eyes. It was a part of him he only let show in the dead of the night. "Why did you show me this? Why did you show me this?" I asked, wondering why he hadn't shown one of the others. Wondering why he hadn't picked one of the others. "You always listen to my stories," he shrugged. I stared back, sensing there was more he wanted to say. Pirate chose his words as a man. I think I tried really hard to make that work. It's just too much. And it's not. So we want to say there that he's like choosing his words as carefully as a man crossing the rapids might choose where he puts his feet, you know? But it's so long, and I don't think the payoff is worth it. You want. Pirate chose his words delicately. While they were interrogating us. He was nervous to continue, but at last he obliged me. While they were interrogating us, the drills turned the barracks upside down, like they'd never done before. I've been worried they'll come back and look deeper. I can't stand the thought no one but me will ever see my work. A drill would just crush them and throw them in a trash chute. I nodded. Let's make that a refuse. In a refuse chute. I nodded. That's exactly what a drill would do. While they were interrogating us, the drills turned the barracks upside down, like they've never done before. It took days to get everything back together. I've been worried they'll come back and look harder. And look deeper. I can't stand the thought no one but me will ever see my work. A drill would just crush them and throw them in a refuse chute. I nodded. It was exactly what a drill would do. But why me? I pressed, wondering if he suspected. I had a paranoid flash this was just another setup, that XEROS had put him up to this. You're the only one who didn't flip. The rest of us were back in the barracks within a few hours. We thought you were never coming back. XEROS? Yeah, Pirate asked. Tapping the side of his face. So he got hit like right here. How would Soros fucking? I want to say that he got hit with the right cross, and he tapped his left temple, and I nodded. I had a bruise there. I had a deep bruise there that still hadn't faded. Yeah, this is difficult because he's trying to do like this motion, like yeah. Well, does the Rapids imagery jive with the world? You might be like 15 minutes behind. No, it doesn't. It's like so one, it doesn't jive with the world because he's he was like born and raised on a space station. The other, it's just it doesn't give the reader enough for how difficult it is. Like writing that is almost as difficult as crossing the rapids, carefully choosing each footstep. It just doesn't fucking work. Um, it's not worth it. He tapped his left temple to mean the deep bruise on the side of my face. Suros, I confirmed. The man left his mark. Yeah, YouTube is weirding out on you. You had to refresh. All right, cool. Yeah, I don't know why. Like we're disconnected again. But the rest of us rolled on each other. Hold on. The rest of us rolled on each other immediately, Pirate said unhappily. All our little secrets. We were eating shit the whole week you were infirm. The drills were still unhappy afterward. I don't think they found out what they wanted. Any clue what it was? I asked. My mouth had gone dry. No clue. Or any idea what it was? I asked. My mouth had gone dry. No clue. Probably one of the drills did something, and they tried to pin it on us. Probably one of the drill. No. Is there a comment there? Probably. Sounds about right, I agreed, quickly. A flicker of uncertainty went through his face, and there was an uncomfortable silence. Pirate glanced back in the direction of the barracks, then nodded his head towards Murderous's bunk. I almost showed her those before. So stupid. I almost showed her those. Missing a double quote. Yep. We were indeed. Boom. Getting even closer. I almost showed her my sculptures. So stupid. I'd be dead now if I had. Why her? I asked. Why her? I asked. Murderous was the absolute last person I would ever confide in. Pirate shrugged and then cupped the air in front of his chest with both hands. All men are fools, he said, sounding a little wistful. I thought she might have a thing for artists. I don't think she has a thing for anyone but herself, I countered. Pirate stifled a laugh. Maybe so. Anyhow, my secret is safe with you, right? Pirate tried to be casual, but he had really taken a terrible chance here. I think he was starting to have second thoughts. I made the little gesture of turning a key in the side of my mouth and throwing it away. I like that. Thank you. You always keep it close. Pirate said, visibly relieved. You always keep it close. You still haven't told anyone who you betrayed to get that name. And I never will, I said. Pirate shut one of his eyes and tilted his head in invitation. He was dying to know. I shook my head. Were you really stationed on Tau? I changed the subject. Pirate was always happy to talk about himself. Initially, yes. Want to know something funny? It actually gave me a lot of practice. Ship repair is not so different from sculpture. An endoscopic bursectomy to pull shrapnel from a hull lining is every bit as delicate as rendering lace and marble. Yeah, that doesn't quite track. Performing an endoscopic bursectomy on shrapnel in a hull lining is as delicate. Performing an endoscopic bursectomy on shrapnel in a hull lining takes the same patient skill as rendering lace and marble. I must have done a dozen thoracoscopic sympathectomies on reactor shield membranes. That's like carving a block of clay where a single bad stroke will kill everyone on the dock. There's art everywhere if you go looking for it. I nodded. How do I wake up every day early as fuck? I mean, what else am I going to do? Sleep? I mean, I go to bed at like fucking I'll tell you like one side effect of doing this editing. Like I'm so focused on the book and the editing and everything, and it's so important to me. And I enjoy this so much. Like I don't know if you can tell at the moment, but like this is what I want to do in the world, and I'm loving every second of it. But I only get to do this for like 2 or 3 hours every day. Like that's the most that I can effectively do. I feel like, and then the rest of the day is just kind of like, why even bother? Like I almost wish I could just fall asleep directly after writing this and like wake up immediately afterward and start again. This is like all that I want to do all day long. And so I just wind up going like around 3 o'clock every day. And like, the fuck is there even left to do? And I can't really go outside because it's freezing out. Like all of my friends have vanished over the year of COVID, and I'm not dating anybody at the moment. And I've like played every video game in the dirt. Like all I really do is like dick around with music, and then wait for time to pass, which is kind of sad. But I mean, that's the price of having something that you really love doing, is that everything else doesn't quite measure up to it. You know what I mean? Um, Everybody's only got a certain amount of joy and sorrow that they're allotted, unless you live in Haiti, and then everything fucking sucks all the time. Um, oh, just one update. I'm testing out a new T-shirt printer, and I think we're gonna try and make some ASCII shirts with it. I'm just gonna see how well they do on an order that's like block colors. It doesn't even have colors. I'm just doing a white and black copy of the Gravid logo. But anyhow, I should make a logo for XEROS while I'm at it there. So this paragraph needs some work. Yeah, ASCII shirt. Yeah, we had that idea the other day, and I want like a Fractal Girl shirt, and then if we can get a printer where they look good enough that I don't feel bad wearing them, um, then and like the test is always like white printing on a black shirt. If the printer is decent, and they do a good job, and it was only like $10 for the first shirt. That's going to take like 20 or 30 days to show up here. Then maybe I'll set up like an ASCII shirt store, because I think these guys will do the fulfillment that I want and everything. So yeah, we'll see how that all works out. Because I have the chops to get everything into print format, and I have so many ASCIIs of my own where I own the ASCII copyright and so forth. But one of the first shirts that I want to do is Polyheart's Fractal Girl, because I think Fractal Girl is just fucking gorgeous. Um, so I'm gonna give it a shot. And like one thing I learned from doing shirts is that you have to order prints of everything. Like I remember when I was first doing shirts on Streamlabs, and their quality was fucking terrible, and the shirt smelled like mustard, and I had to like offer to refund everybody. Nobody took me up on it. Charcoal Heather, um, as an option. Those Heather shirts are super soft. They have like some super soft ones there. Usually, what I buy is like Gildan ultra heavy fabric there, because to me, I want a shirt that will hold up, and I don't care how soft they are, for the most part. Um, but yeah, you have the option to do like ultra soft. So I think I'll try doing the Fractal Girl test one on something super soft, and I'll see how the ink winds up on both of them. But yeah, I'll make that like a little later today. Today I'm going to work on getting tests of these ASCII shirts. So I just fucking like shirts. It's always a good gift to give me as like a shirt that you think that I would like. Like this one wasn't a gift, but yesterday I was wearing like a gifted shirt, and yeah, it's just I like having the shirt and thinking about the person that gave it to me. Yeah, Spaethiwa is in. You guys missed the entire fucking chapter, and this is like our beautiful chapter. So sorry. Um, so initially, yes. Want to know something funny? It actually gave me a lot of practice. Ship repair is not so different from sculpture. Ship repair isn't far from sculpture. I must have done a dozen. I like that we're just tossing in there. Yeah, I just I like shirts with shit on them. You know what I mean? Um, oh, shout outs to the Lord of the Flies right here. Oh yeah, that's them on the beach with Piggy's glasses, which he got in trouble because they were the wrong type of fucking glass. Ooh, you know, suck a dick. Want to know something funny? It actually gave me a lot of practice. Ship repair isn't far from sculpture. Performing an endoscopic bursectomy on shrapnel in a hull lining is about as hard as rendering lace and marble. Performing an endoscopic bursectomy on a shrapnel-riddled hull lining is about as hard as rendering lace and marble. A thoracoscopic sympathectomy of a reactor shield membrane is like carving a block of clay where a single bad stroke will kill everyone on the dock. There's art everywhere if you go looking for it. No, shout outs to Masked Emerald, joining us from God knows where, God knows why. But I like that people start joining up as we get later into the morning right here. It's early in the morning. I was hanging on his every word. What was it really like there? I asked. It's certainly not early for me. I just hopped in from the Writers Network. Yeah, so this is my ninth book. It's the fourth one that I've edited on stream. Um, for the Twitch Writers Network or whatever. I don't think watching people write is compelling at all. I've like tried to watch some of the other streams, and it doesn't make for good viewing. But I do think that editing is good because readers can or viewers can collaborate. And so here we keep a leaderboard right here of everybody who has submitted an edit that got picked up. And each of them will be thanked in the final book, and you get a point for every edit that I accept. And so I think it's fun to like be part of there's like a certain um, kind of autistic joy in like finding mistakes and making something as perfect as you can get it and so forth. But I've tried to like write on stream, and I don't think it's good. I think it distracts the writer at a point where you need to be using the entirety, like every part of you should be focused on the act of writing. So that's my theory. I like watched some of the other stuff for a while, and I was like, yeah. And I looked at the writing that I was trying to do on stream. I'm like, this is not as good as the writing that I do when it's just me purely focused on the story. So that's my theory. So it should really be if it was only me, it would just be the Twitch editing network. Editing is supremely better. Like, one, I don't feel like as lonely, and I hated editing before I started doing this. Now I love it. Two, it's something that really benefits from, like, the more eyes that you have on you, the more experiences people are going to have, and the more people are going to be like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Or they'll know an anecdote that relates to something, or they'll have like a little piece of trivia that you can work in, or they'll come up with like the perfect word that you never would have caught up by yourself. Um, like, like every part of a book is a collective act, except for the initial writing and what should be your initial rough draft edit by yourself. But like, as soon as the book is completed and you've done your initial edit and everything, every stage of it is going to be collaborative. And I like, it's one mistake I see like a lot of writers doing. They don't want to like let go of the reins and so forth. But man, as soon as that book is out in the world, you have no control over it. Like, somebody could be reading your book and imagining like all your characters as anthropomorphic ponies or some shit. What's up, Raburn? Expert eagle eye comma usage. Yeah. Um, let me see. I was already interested, but when Pirate talked about working on ships, I hung on his every word. What was it really like there? I asked. His expression clouded. I breathed. Oh, let's just make that whispered. Breathe is too raw. His expression clouded. It's a dangerous story. Drills might kill you if they find out I told you, Pirate warned. Twice? He shrugged, with his bottom lip tight. Pirate couldn't really accept that we were condemned. I didn't press the issue. Then a sound made both of us freeze. Somewhere up the corridor, two drills were arguing with each other. Tomorrow, Pirate promised. The two of us slipped silently back to our bunks. So, yeah, this is an important chapter, very, very important, and it's the part where like, the characters start to relate to each other as human beings and not just as inmates. And so I want to put in a comment here. Okay. So a little bit ago, we were talking about how to sort of lead into the fact that XEROS references a bunch of classical music, and XEROS has like a keen interest in mythology, and like he's what you would call like a classically learned individual, which is weird because he's a drill sergeant there. So I said we spring this on the reader kind of out of nowhere, and we need to add like a little to the XEROS mystique. So I thought there's a space earlier in the book somewhere where we're talking about how they're listening to certain things happening through the vents. And Trader can just say, like, I was here like distant, like classical music, like outside of the reactor hum and all that. And I wonder where the fuck it's coming from. And at some point, he just realizes, oh, it's XEROS office. Like at some point later, he gets dragged into XEROS office. So we could potentially put it there. All right. We've only been going for an hour and a half. I want to do chapter 9. So we're going to do chapter 9. And also, we got people here. Let's take a short break while I find something to cover myself with because it's fucking freezing. I'll be right back. There we go. All right, now I got a blanket over my legs like FDR or Professor X, whoever your favorite mutant is. All right, so Glutton and Addict. This is chapter 9. None of us could believe our eyes when Glutton joined the squadron. He was the largest human any of us had ever seen. When they first captured... When the Hezo captured him, he weighed 200 kilos. Well, that's a double captured him. 200. I can't even imagine how much wheeling and dealing it took to get the calories to sustain that mass. It took to sustain that mass. Even more impressive, this fat body had somehow Glutton had somehow survived his training flight, burying 40 normal-sized people. 39. We do need a comma there. Ooh, chasing his tail. Even more impressive, Glutton had somehow survived his training flight, burying 39 normal-sized people. His skin hung off him in sallow flaps, and his eyes had retreated into dark pits. I tried to be his friend, but he recoiled. It hurt my pride, even more so when Addict came along. Addict and Glutton were thick as thieves as once. They could not have looked more different. Addict was born on Anubis Station. He had spindly spacer limbs. I want to take off this spacer thing, because spacer, when we say that shit there, we're just ripping off fucking The Expanse. No wonder he recoiled. He can probably tell you're being incredibly judgmental of his appearance. Oh yeah, like the voice of this. There's a reason why the main character is a complete outcast, and nobody in the squadron likes him. The first moment of any like real warmth that they experience is the scene previous to this, where Pirate decides like, I got to show my sculptures to somebody. Let's do the guy that can keep his mouth shut, right? But yeah, this is not a body positive novel, not in the slightest. The other part of it too is I want readers, especially American readers, to see the disparity where like a guy that weighs 200 kilos is the largest human being that anybody has ever seen, where like I get, like most people in America can go down to Walmart and see people twice that size rolling by on mobility scooters and such like. Um, but to the rest of the world reading the story, they'll be like, wow, that would be the largest human being I had ever seen too. Ugh. Um, and so I don't know how deep you are into the story, Manad, uh, or Dan OM. But in this story, each of the inmates has been given a name based on their crime. So glutton is here for gluttony. Addict is here because he was addicted to whatever the fuck. One of the characters is named Corrupt. There's Murderous, and our protagonist is Traitor. Let's see. Addict was born on Anubis Station. He had spindly limbs with big knobby quarter-gravity joints. We could make that quarter G. I don't think we get anything. Glutton was raised on Gon Gon at 1.6 G. He was literally big boned on top of his ridiculous obesity. So Gon Gon is another Chinese ripoff. So it is a permutation of the Chinese world serpent, which is pronounced, I think, like gong gong or whatever there. So this is just a little like one where we kind of like slur old Chinese mythological words into a like kind of colloquial English, just to give like the feeling for. And it's like one of those little things that will really only matter to me and maybe like one person who's like bilingual English Chinese, and it's like, oh yeah, that kind of sounds like gonga. Yeah. But yeah, like it's just frivolous detail, but you got to have some stuff in there that's just for you. He was literally big boned on top of his ridiculous obesity. Even in his deflated state, Glutton still had a kind of cherubic quality to his face. Even now, in his deflated state, Glutton still had a kind of cherubic quality to his face. Oh, I think in the initial draft of this, Glutton was a woman. So you can see that one she right there. Even now, in his deflated state, Glutton still had a kind of cherubic quality to his face. There was a sense that he was once the apple of someone's eye. Addict had a face not even a mother could love. And I mean that literally. So we use literally right here. He was actually big boned on top of it. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. And I mean that literally. He told us his story with an amputee's nonchalance. He smoked that person away. Okay, cool. Need them commas right there. Addict weighed 1,500 grams and had been alive less than 24 hours when he was found whimpering in a compost chute. Comma chameleon. Where's chameleon? 48 or 24. Oh, yeah. We need... Yeah. I don't know why. If 1,500... Like, typing out 1,500 for grams... Yeah, like, it doesn't seem right to type out 1,500 grams. Addict weighed 1,500 grams and been alive less than 48 hours. Why not a kilo and a half? Um, it doesn't track right to me. He weighed just 1,500 grams. And part of why it doesn't track right to me is like for some reason something weighing 1,500 grams seems smaller in my mind than weighing a kilo and a half, even though they're the exact same measurement. A kilo just has heft to it to me. Like I think about a kilo of cocaine. When I think about 1,500 grams, I think about like 2 bottles of wine. You know what I mean? Or it doesn't seem like the same amount. But like I'm obviously raised on the fucking idiotic imperial system. Um, so I just don't have the same I don't have the same baseline of competence that somebody raised in a real country would have. He weighed just 1,500 grams. The woman who gave birth to him was nowhere to be found. Somehow she managed to conceal an unauthorized pregnancy for 7 months. She gave birth alone in a plumbing access shaft. There were hab modules. Uh, there were hab modules ringing the shaft. 10,000 people surrounded her, but no one heard a peep. After all that fear and suffering, she dumped Attic in a chute and disappeared. They never figured out her identity. He must have been one ugly baby. Double. Yeah, I like big improvements to this paragraph right here. And just by a little bit of chopping up and rephrasing. Addict had been alive less than 48 hours when Anubis Station security found him whimpering in a compost chute. He weighed just 1,500 grams. The woman who gave birth to him was nowhere to be found. Somehow, she managed to conceal her unauthorized pregnancy for 7 months. And this should be she had already got that comma. Let's take a look. Somehow she managed to conceal her unauthorized pregnancy for 7 months. She gave birth alone in a plumbing access shaft. Yeah, we have to have, it has to be the full habitat. Hab modules just doesn't work. There were habitat modules ringing the shaft. 10,000 people surrounded her, but no one heard a peep. After all that fear and suffering, she dumped Addict in a chute and disappeared. They never figured out her identity. No, read my chat first. No, I already got it. No, you're too late. No points to be had. He must have been one ugly baby. So let's try it Monad's way. He must have been one hell of an ugly baby. He must have been a real ugly baby. I see the need for an extra beat right there, but I don't think a hell of an ugly baby is better. He must have been one ugly fucking baby. Nah, it's too much. He must have been an ugly baby. He must have been one ugly baby. So we want one over Anne, I think. But fuck you. Yeah, like, must have been one damn ugly baby, one seriously ugly baby. None of it. I think I did this during the initial writing. He must have been. Oh, so what we really want there is not the extra beat. We want the emphasis. We want the emphasis on like one in the middle of the line. We want like something. What we're really looking for is to put like a little bit of weight. Uh, like like when like in Predator, where the Predator's mask comes off, it's like, you ugly motherfucker. Something like that. But so, and I don't see like uh one seriously ugly baby. I'm fine with this. Yeah, I'm not gonna make that change. I'm open to suggestions that are like perfect, but I don't think any of the things that we have there are improved. Things didn't improve. Attic's face was cadaverous, lined with pale welts where the Hezo had boiled away his tattoos with lasers. His eyes were too intent. They would linger while he puzzled out what he could extract from you. I don't think we need to have that italics for emphasis. Glutton was the same way. The men each had a hunger they couldn't conceal, an overwhelming desire for more than they were allotted. I doubt the two of them would have become friends if they'd met on the outside. At best, Attic would have traded Glutton his rations for dope precursors. But here in prison, they became inseparable friends. But here in prison, the pair became inseparable friends. They chattered every instant the drills weren't around. If we split them up to separate tasks, they would pout and do such miserable jobs, the rest of us would have to redo their work. Miserable is... If we split them up to separate tasks, they would pout. Then they would do such poor jobs, the rest of us would wind up redoing their work so we didn't get beaten. I liked it before the last change, where pout and doing such poor jobs were in the same sentence. Well, so the problem that we have there is then it becomes like a run-on sentence. Um, yeah, it really just it's trying to cram too much into one sentence. Hold on, let's go back. Do we? So it's understood by the reader at this point that they'll get beaten by the drills if they fuck up. But I think part of me feels like it's worth. Uh, yeah, objection is to having. I think this is a little better there. Here, I'm gonna give this to Logic right there. And like one of the big points of like having this collaborative editing is to keep me from fucking up by introducing changes that are necessary. Wait. So Jack of Trades, who posts me a fucking YouTube link in the IRC chat rather than just asking me what fucking game it is. God, I'm busy editing, motherfucker. But here in prison, the pair became inseparable friends. They chattered every instant the drills weren't around. If we split them up to separate tasks, they would pout and do such poor jobs the rest of us would wind up redoing their work. Yeah, I think we if we do it that way, then we don't add in the part about getting beaten by the drills. Eventually, we gave up trying to change them, the same as every other person in their lives. Just as every other person in their lives had. I like that right there, where that whole bit after they would pout. If we split them up to separate tasks, they would pout and do such poor jobs the rest of us would wind up redoing their work. Eventually, we gave up trying to change them, just as every other person in their lives had. I like that. It really does resonate with like the addict thing. The just despair, like we're finally one by one, your friends and your family give up on you because you're not going to change and they're sick of trying. Um, you know what's really weird here is like in every other book that we've edited, we've just removed that mercilessly. Just you could almost do like a find replace for every instance of that and remove them all from the book. But here we're having to add them back in because it becomes so zealous with removing that. Um, it's really like that is such a weird word in that it's almost always like it almost always has almost no meaning, but sometimes it's just needed so that things flow correctly. Let's read it again now that we've added that. But here in prison, the pair became inseparable friends. They chattered every instant the drills weren't around. If we split them up to separate tasks, they would pout and do such poor jobs that the rest of us would wind up redoing their work. Eventually, we gave up trying to change them, just as every other person in their lives had before. Just like every other person in their lives before us. I like that, yeah. Attic never stopped talking, and Glutton absorbed every word like a second helping of dinner. They always talked about the same things, getting high and eating. Addict had an endless chronicle of the dirt he'd done to stay high. Intercepted shipments and waylaid couriers, plundered stockpiles and ginned up prescriptions. Yeah, this is yeah. It really there we just need like a colon because it's like a list of things, and then we need commas there. Um, Glutton had just as many stories of angles he'd worked to get extra food. He could turn a single sandwich ration into a one-man banquet with an afternoon of wheedling. This is a shout out to my homie Tom Waits right there. The song called Step Right Up. It turns a sandwich into a banquet. It moisturizes, it tenderizes, it gets embarrassing lipstick stains out of your collars. Step right up. Oh, it's a great fucking song. We played it on the show. He could turn a single sandwich ration. I like that also there's a sandwich ration into a one-man banquet with an afternoon of wheedling. He'd eaten all kinds of things the rest of us could never dream of. Could only dream of. Live crawfish, preserved iceworm, real beef, wild fruit. It hurts to even consider how much disappeared into Glutton's gullet, how much was shot up Attic's arms. They looked like a pair of fiends. For we went into that. It doesn't get capitalized. Yeah. Oh fuck. What did I just break? Oh, that's not the end of the world. That can be like that. Okay. I don't think that this adds anything. They look like a pair of fiends. Glutton with his bat-like frill of wattle at his neck and beneath his arms. Addict with his gargoyle grin. Yeah, let's just cut that. That's too much. I do like gargoyle grin. If they somehow managed to escape, I'm certain they would immediately return to gorging and getting high. If those two somehow managed to escape, I'm certain they would immediately return to gorging and getting high. But there was no danger of that. Their flight scores were terrible. I could only hope they would execute Addict first. I didn't want to lose my wager. I mean, you might be right too, but it's also not important. That's something that the editor should catch. I mean, we try to get while we're here. Oh, here's Venus of Urbino. She's a fucking real one right there. Shout outs to her. And then what do we have? Yeah. Lowercase if the words form a dependent clause, and they can't. Yeah. And it's also you can choose whether to capitalize or not. It's just easier not to. I don't see a need for capitalization, and it looks wrong to my eye. So that's where we're at. I mean, that's the whole point. Everybody would do Venus of Urbino. She, and that's why that's why I kind of picked there. There's just there is a longing to that statue, or the I mean, it's been a statue too. Like there have been statue versions of it, but it really captures. Well, I don't have to get into it. You know what I mean. We were in the 8th training course now, and starting to look more and more like actual pilots. Even Glutton could pull off most of the basic maneuvers. I'd mastered them all, and I was starting to wonder why. Why was there so much focus on movement and none on targeting? It was all preamble, no punchline. They were training us like fighter pilots, but what could a squadron of fighters do against such a vast adversary? But what could a squadron of fighters do against the collaborators? Collaborators is capitalized. The drills kept cranking up the difficulty of the training sessions. They began to make us race, setting up obstacle courses of glowing beacon rings and comparing our times. All preamble, no punchline. That's what she said. Yeah, that's what the Venus of Urbino says to us. They began to make us race, setting up obstacle courses of glowing beacon rings and comparing our times. Whoever was the slowest didn't eat, and it was always Glutton. The drills caught Addict sharing his food, and then both of them got a beating that landed them in the infirmary for a week. The drills caught Addict sharing his food. The beating landed them in the infirmary. The beating landed them both in the infirmary for a week. When they recovered, they were a week behind in training. Their times got even worse. So the problem with they there is there can be pronoun confusion between the drills and there we go. Okay, cool. So that fixes our pronoun confusion, and I think it's obvious from the paragraph that like it's not them beating up the drills or whatever. But I don't even want the reader to have to think about that. Um, and it's like one of these like 10% of readers maybe have that confusion right there, but like it's worth the extra words to specify. The drills kept cranking up the difficulty of the training sessions. They began to make us race, setting up obstacle courses of glowing beacon rings and comparing our times. Whoever was the slowest didn't eat, and it was always glutton. The drills caught Attic sharing his food. The beating that resulted landed both inmates in the infirmary for a week. Oh, I don't know. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Now that's fixed. Okay. The drills caught Attic sharing his food with Glutton. Both inmates caught a beating that landed them in the infirmary for a week. When they recovered, they were a week behind. This meant they were a week behind in training when they recovered. Their times got even worse. I noticed the circuit times of some of the others got suddenly worse after that. I noticed that the other inmates' circuit times got worse after Glutton and Addict returned, especially Liar's. On one run, he came in dead last. On one run, Liar came in dead last, overshooting a turn I thought he could have easily made. The fool was going to get himself killed. After a few days of this, Liar came out outright. Liar outright asked the rest of us to sandbag. He'd worked out a rotation of tanked runs, so no one would miss eating for 2 days in a row. No. Murderous was the first to refuse. Corrupt did it with a bit more hand-wringing diplomacy, but he also refused. I want another word for refuse. Yeah, declined. The rest of the squadron turned to me. Fuck that, I said. A week later, we were staring at Glutton's face through the thick glass of the airlock porthole. He was too exhausted to weep. I wound up losing that dinner after all. Double. Motherfuckers getting executed for their flight times. I'm liking it. No. Murderous was the first to refuse. Corrupt said no. Corrupt declined with a bit more hand-wringing diplomacy. The rest of the squadron turned to me. Fuck that, I said. A week later, we were staring at Glutton's face. Hold on, I don't want it all their circuit times. Some circuit times. Okay, yeah, I just don't want it to be like there's unanimity, and then it's like, why are they refusing after they have unanimity? I think out of the others there, Pirate and Liar are the ones who would be willing to like sandbag to save somebody else. And obviously, like Glutton and Attic are trying to help out. Murderous, Corrupt, fuck no. Yeah, they're not going down like that. I wonder who I'm forgetting about. Well, there just aren't that many inmates in the squadron in any case. And I think initially I wanted to have like 10 or 12 or something, but I just pared it down because I couldn't think of a good story for each of them. A week later, we were staring at Glutton's face through the thick glass of an airlock porthole. He was too exhausted to weep. I wound up losing that dinner after all. Boom. And so chapter 10 is the Ruby Storm. And I think the Ruby Storm is like kind of a, here, let me, if you guys will gander at this for a second, let me see how many pages the next chapter is going to be. So 87 to, oh, this one has the 7 keel still in it. Oh, that's cool. This is a good chapter. Let me see. Oh yeah, this is definitely. Okay, so it takes us up to page 97. So we won't quite get halfway through the book tomorrow, but it's also pretty good. So we got through 2 chapters today, which I'm pretty happy about. We just edited for not the intro. There we go. We got through 2 chapters today, and Diamond Hands. Are you still holding that GME? I hope you make it, buddy. Just more than anybody else, I would love to see Logic rich as shit. It's only it's only 0200 hours, and the roosters are already going. I'm sad I can't drive the van out to Hawaii to holler. So I like this chapter. I like that it's an aside. It's pretty short. It gets back into the frame of talking a little bit about some of the other inmates. We introduce Addict more fully there, and I like also that we take a second to I feel bad that you guys didn't get to see most of Pirate's Gallery, and part of that was just like IRC Clown didn't fucking do right because Port 80 is so poor. But it was a really neat chapter there, and I like that we're getting like a little bit more into the other inmates and less of like a strict focus on just Trader. So it feels like a little bit more of a squadron there. And it's interesting too. Like Addict and Glutton reveal a little bit about the world. Like food is not easy to come by, and like the corruption. So we got through 2,961 words today. So this is day 8. and we did chapters 9. Was it 2960? 2961. And we only edited for a scant 2 hours. It's gonna do 2 hours because like it was like 26 minutes of me talking bullshit at the start of it and reviewing our chapter and so forth. So not too bad today. Some good work, and I can see that we're coming up on the halfway mark, and getting to the halfway in probably tomorrow if we work hard, we can do 2 chapters and get up to the halfway mark in the story. I will tell you that the later part of the story is going to be harder to edit, and we may need to do more rewrites, and we may need to get into. There may be parts where we've just completely fucked up the physics, and we have to change like the entire second half of the book, or introduce some come to the mainland. Yeah, I'll definitely make it to California at some point. But I like where all this has gone. This is good. We're doing well, and some great suggestions today. And I think that we significantly improved both of those chapters without having to make any big changes and shit. I really feel like this is the kind of story where potentially like Tor would snap this guy up, because it's just a straight far future science fiction thing. It doesn't get too kinky. It doesn't get too creepy, and it's like kind of it's got some appeal for me, and it gets pretty wild towards the end of the book in a way that I find compelling. So it's not quite up there with like an Alistair Reynolds or something like that, but Alistair Reynolds is a fucking genius. I am not. But it could definitely be like a rung or two under that guy. And it really does have like my own, this is obviously like a book that I've written. It contains many of the themes that echo through my book, and it has that kind of certain swang to it. So anyhow, good editing this morning. I hope everybody has a good week. And as always, never get high on your own supply. All right, whatever the fuck.